Okay, so this isn't your typical business story. This is more like a financial true crime documentary. It's the story of how an internet giant, a company that for a while was the internet, just crumpled. It's a real tragedy of missed chances, unbelievable arrogance, and a series of screw-ups so huge you can barely believe they happened. Let's get into it.
Everything starts with a single number, $1 million. Back in 1998, that's what it would have cost Yahoo to buy this small but really promising little search engine. For a company at the absolute peak of its power, that's basically pocket change.
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. They were holding the future in their hands for the price of a nice New York apartment, and they just walked away. This was the first domino to fall. It was the original sin in what became a long, painful story of total self-destruction. And this is what they missed out on, a $1 trillion fumble. We're talking about one of the single biggest business blunders in modern history. That one decision right there set the stage for a corporate collapse that played out over the next 20 years. But look, to really get the scale of the fall, you have to understand the incredible heights they reached. Because back in the late 90s, Yahoo wasn't just some company. For millions of people, it was literally the front door to the entire online world. And they were building this digital empire at lightning speed. They went on this insane shopping spree just buying up the key pieces of the early web. In 97, they snapped up news ticker tech. In 98, they bought WebCal and turned it into Yahoo Calendar. Then in 99, they bought GeoCities, where everyone had their first goofy website, and of course, Broadcast.com, which famously made Mark Cuban a billionaire. They had all the money and all the ambition to own absolutely everything. And this right here, this explains their whole philosophy and ultimately their fatal flaw. See, they didn't want to help you find stuff on the internet. They wanted to be your internet. They wanted to build this walled garden with their news, their mail, their calendars, everything. They saw search as just a little feature, not the entire future. And that was a catastrophic mistake. But you know what they say, an empire built on a shaky foundation can fall apart just as fast as it was built. And in Yahoo's case, the leaders themselves became the architects of its destruction. I mean, just look at this list. The CEO position was a revolving door of failure. 5 CEOs in 10 years. You've got Terry Semel, who got a second chance to buy Google in 2002 and missed it again. You have Carol Bartz, who got fired over the phone. Scott Thompson, who didn't even last 5 months. It's just complete chaos. No consistent vision, no stability, just constant panic. And then came the celebrity savior, Marissa Mayer, who they poached from Google. She was supposed to be the one to turn it all around. But this quote kind of reveals the tragic flaw in our main character. An oversized ego, micromanagement. It really paints a picture of a leader who was so blinded by the spotlight that she created a toxic environment that just made everything worse. So what happened? Well, exactly what you'd expect. The company's actual talent, its most valuable asset, started heading for the door. More than a third of the entire workforce and key executives just left. The culture was completely collapsing, and with it, any real hope of ever innovating again. And while the ship was sinking, you know who was getting paid? The executives. This number, $103 million. That was the total payout for the COO, Enrique de Castro. How long did he work there? 15 months. And his performance? So bad that Marissa Mayer had to fire him herself. $100 million for 15 months of failure. Analysts called it a misfire. Honestly, it was more than that. It was a symptom of a corporate disease. The company was just burning through cash on bad decisions while its main business was rotting from the inside out. And oh, the bad bets just kept on coming. Take their next huge gamble. They tried to buy their way back into being cool. They dropped over $1 billion on Tumblr, hoping to grab a younger audience. But just like all the other gambles, it never paid off. It was just another billion-dollar bandage on a wound that was already fatal. But all of this, the bad hires, the wasted money, it all pales in comparison to the crime that was about to come to light. We're talking about a betrayal of user trust on a scale that the world had never, ever seen before. 3 billion. That's how many user accounts were hacked in a data breach back in 2013. Just let that number hang in the air for a second. 3 billion. So let's be crystal clear here. This wasn't just some breach. This was a total compromise. Every single person who ever had a Yahoo account was exposed. To this day, it is still the single largest data breach in the history of the internet. Now here's the kicker. They knew. And for years, they didn't say a word. The SEC later found that their public statements were materially misleading. In plain English, they actively hid the biggest data breach in history from everyone. This wasn't just incompetence anymore, this was a cover-up. So what was the penalty for this historic act of deception? $35 million. That's it. A fine from the SEC that amounts to a slap on the wrist. It was absolutely nothing compared to the damage done to their reputation and, to the 3 billion people they let down. But, the truth always comes out. While they were trying to negotiate their final sale to Verizon, the story broke, and it almost destroyed the entire deal. In the end, it just cost them. $350 million got knocked right off the final sale price. A very public price tag for all those years of secrecy. So, after all the mistakes, the bad bets, and the betrayals, what's actually left of this empire that once basically was the internet? Well, what's left is a graveyard, a digital ghost town of services that we once used every day. Just look at this list. GeoCities, Yahoo Messenger, Yahoo Groups, Yahoo Answers, all of them shut down. They're just relics now. It's kind of sad how much online culture was just lost when this company went down. And here's the final indignity. The company was sold to Verizon for just under $5 billion, a tiny fraction of what it was once worth. And then it was sold off again to a private equity firm. The once mighty pioneer was reduced to just another asset on a spreadsheet to be bought and sold for parts, which really leaves us with this one final, haunting question. Think about it. They had a 20-year head start on everyone. They had all the money and talent in the world. So was its failure this shocking tragedy? Or was it just the inevitable end for a company consumed by its own arrogance? It's a cautionary tale for the ages, really, about how quickly even the biggest empires can turn to ash.